Hello, class. I just wanted to reach out and give you a quick lesson in how to do databases in its simplest form. I'm actually going to show you using Microsoft Access because it's just easier to give you an idea how foreign keys and primary keys are created. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll go from there, okay? Excuse my coughing, that's why I'm not here today. After I start talking for more than like 15 minutes, I start coughing to a point that I start losing my voice. So, anyway, hopefully this helps. I gotta share. Not that way. Where do I share my screen? I know I can. Where is it? Share screen. There we go. Okay. Okay, so let me open Access. Now, this is how we end up doing this, okay? Sorry. I'm just going to leave it called this. The principles that I'm going over hold true to SQL as well. That's why this will work. I just want to show you guys how it's done, okay? I'm going to change my view. I'm going to call this customer, I guess. Actually, I'll call it student. The thing with creating a table, also known as an entity, so that's where ERD comes from. It is an entity relationship diagram. And ERD, what's interesting about it is that it's something that you assign usually. Or not assign. The ERD shows the relationships between the tables, and I'll show you how that looks in a little bit here. But one of the very first things that we do with an entity would be like student. A schedule for a student would be an entity. A transcript is an entity, stuff like that. And then these are fields, and fields are attributes that describe the entity. Okay. So what you do is you create something like a student ID. You all have a student ID. It's the primary key. That's what this little key is for. If I put in here just primary key, just so I know what it is in this case. If it's a primary key is a unique identifier of a record or an entity. For a student, that student ID can only ever exist one time in this table. Okay. It can never exist anywhere else in this table. So, Chris, if you have your student ID, I would never be able to have your student ID. No one else will ever be able to have your student ID. Okay. 1 second. I just can't win. Okay. Then you include the fields that describe the entity. So maybe age is in there, maybe gender is in there. Oh, not there. Escape. Maybe gender is in there. Okay. You can add fields later. What we really need is we need our primary keys and our foreign keys to create the ERD. What I'm going to challenge you as a class to do is all work together to determine all of the fields that you're going to need, but you're also going to have to determine all of the entities that you need. Again, an entity is a person, place, thing, or transaction, uh, stuff like that. Okay. So I'm just going to say this is good. I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to create a new table. So you see my table is getting created over here. It's done differently in SQL, but these concepts are the same, okay? Sorry. So we're going to say, in this case, I'm going to try to focus it towards what you guys are doing. So we're going to say schedule. You guys are going to have to figure this out differently. I'm oversimplifying this just to get the concept across of the primary key to foreign key and so on. Actually, let's not do schedule. Let's do survey. Okay. And you would have a survey ID every time someone takes the survey. That is your primary key. Okay. You would also, because a student takes the survey, you have student ID. And that's a foreign key in here. Okay. And because it's an auto number that was created in the other one, it's going to be a number in here. That's the only way we're going to be able to create a relationship. And we're just going to call it answer 1, answer 2, 3. So it's going to be question answer 1, question answer 2, question answer 3. You might want to be more specific in the way you name these. Okay, so I've got a primary key for survey. I've got a foreign key for survey. A student can take many surveys. Notice it's not a primary key here. So student ID can show up in this table an infinite number of times. Server ID or survey ID can only ever show up one time. So one student can take many surveys, but the same survey ID cannot be used for multiple surveys. Okay. It's a unique identifier of the survey entity. Okay. Student ID is what we have to have there to create the relationship. Now, I'm going to keep this short because my throat's killing me and I just feel like I'm going to start coughing. So the next thing you would do is I'm going to close that. I'm going to save that. Now you have to do this with all of your entities. You create table and stuff, but I'm going to show you something. In here, I can go to relationships. I could take both of these, drag them out here, and I would drag student ID to student ID. I enforce referential integrity, meaning that a survey cannot be taken by a student that does not exist in the student table. Okay? And then I'll explain something. So one student can take an infinite number of surveys. That's all that says. One student, which is primary key. Every student has a unique identifying student ID. It will never be used again by anyone else. Okay? It's your ID for the rest of your life and beyond. So one student can take an infinite number of surveys. Every survey that's taken has its own ID. Where it gets related is through that student ID. Okay? So that's a one-to-many relationship. One student can take many student IDs. I'm going to close that. I'm going to save that. Oh, by the way, actually cancel. This is a very, very simplified ERD. if I was to recreate this in draw.io, which I will. Nope, there we go, infinity. If I was to recreate this in draw.io, create new diagram, you look for the proper thing, an ERD diagram, okay? I provided a video for how to create this, I believe, but I'm going to say survey. I'm just going to call it survey. I don't really, whatever you call it, you call it. And what happens here is I can just double click here. And here we said student ID. Oops, wrong button. Control Z. Yeah, there we go. That's a primary key. I'm just going to keep this simple to save time and energy. I'm going to change it to student name. Over here, we're going to change this to survey. I'm going to change this to survey ID. And we're going to change this to student ID. Okay. I'm going to delete this other table because we did nothing with it. Okay. So, 1 second. Okay. So, I want to turn these grids off. It's easy. When you connect these connection arrows, and there's different arrows that you can use. You don't want to use these. You can go to entity relationship down here and hover over, and you'll see a 0 to many option. You'll see a 1 to many. We want 1 to many. And then you drag this side. If I click off of it, you can see this has what's called a chicken foot. That's the many. 1 has nothing. Okay. I'm going to drag this up here a little bit. The many goes to the foreign key field. The 1 goes to the primary key field. Okay. Now, wherever I drag this, the connection stays. I have a 1 to many relationship between student and survey. There are other things you can do. For instance, survey would have a date, a time, stuff like that. So you could add, those fields, survey date, and then so on and so on and so on. This is all I'm looking for. Not this, but all of your entities with just the primary keys and foreign keys at this point. But I want you as a class today to come up with as an exhaustive list as possible of all the pieces of data you think that you're going to need. Okay? So hopefully this video helps and all that good stuff. Let me stop sharing, and I will post this. So let me find where I'm at, because I can never remember how to stop this stuff. End stream.